Oh, baby. It's back. NFL draft season on the channel. For Josh and I, that means like legitimately competing. Josh, had the best mock draft of all time. I'm chasing the 2020 NFL best rankings on the internet, according to Arif Hassan. You can hang up the banner for that one. So we got a lot of research to do just after the Super Bowl, ahead of the NFL Combine. I started this thing off at the very top of the NFL draft. To me, that means we got to rank the prospects. I in this video have the top 16 players in the draft, because I think those are the 16 players that can go in the top 10. And then secondly, at the very end of this video, we'll actually do a mock draft for the top 12 teams. So Cowboys fans, stay tuned to kind of pair these guys up. I looked at the schemes, 4-3 versus 3-4 defenses, what type of offenses, zone-based, man-based. So all those like little details, we'll get to that later in the show. But let's start this thing off. We'll compare kind of Daniel Jeremiah, Dane Brugler, Field Yates, grinding the mocks. We'll look at their consensus rankings versus my top, I'll say the top 12, top 16 prospects in the draft here before we get the measurables. So let's start this thing off with the number one prospect. No kind of surprise here. I think it is Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. Tall rhythm passer, has a lot of toughness in the pocket. There's a lot of RPOs in this offense, but I would largely ignore that. If you just sit there and watch all of his like third down plays, you can see his arm come alive. You can see that toughness, that ability to scan the field, all of the type of stuff that we need to see in the modern NFL. Lots of zone coverages out there. You have to be able to recognize what you're seeing. I think Fernando Mendoza does that at a very high clip. I think arm-wise, there's some back shoulder throws to the sideline that are impressive. I think he can rip the dig route as well. So it's not like substantially insane arm talent here, but I do think it's very functional arm talent. There's not going to be any weaknesses on like what types of plays you can throw up to Fernando Mendoza. I think his best trait is his ball placement. So there was a really cool study from Sports Info Solution. They have all this like play-by-play tracking data, and they realized that the throws that translate from college quarterbacks to NFL quarterbacks are intermediate throws. So like there's some value to deep downfield passing. We talk about that on the channel a ton. There's obviously some like ability to throw the check down, but it's the throws in the middle. So what I do every single year is I look throws between 5 and 20 yards down the field. A lot of this is kind of just like timing throws, but all of this is also like ability to kind of hang in there and throw over the middle when there's kind of pressure. And Fernando Mendoza, he has a 78% on target rate. That is extremely, extremely good. I compared that to a lot of the other prospects over the last couple years, and hit stands up at the very, very top of that. This was also the stat that I was throwing out there for Jackson Dart on why I was higher on him. But really, his ball placement is very good. He's a great processor. He rarely will put the ball into harm's way. There's a very funny clip of him actually putting the ball into harm's way. You can see him like literally having a mental moment there where he was instantly regrettable about it. It was very funny to see him do that. But for the most part, very few poor decisions out there. Adds a little bit of a rushing threat. Obviously, we saw that in the Natty where he's broken all those tackles. He had another one of those similar plays against UCLA. His teammates love him. I love him on the mic. This one, to me, is pretty easy here. My model has him in the 95th percentile. I think he kind of plays the position kind of how Joe Burrow plays it as well, but kind of more in the body of Matt Ryan. I think this one's pretty easy, pretty clear. Fernando Mendoza is the top prospect. Number 2, Arvell Reese from Ohio State. And hands up, I initially watched him as an edge rusher because most people who've been doing the draft analysis for longer in the calendar than I have label him as an edge rusher. I watched him as a pure off-ball linebacker, and I think he's the best off-ball linebacker I've ever studied as a prospect, going back to like 2018, like the Roquan Smith, Devin Bush, Devin White kind of tier. I think he is that, plus offers a little bit more as a pass rusher. He's phenomenal out in space. I think his ability to diagnose things is exceptional. There was a play against Michigan where he was out in coverage and just diagnoses a screen from a running back way earlier than everybody else, makes an open field tackle. There was another play against Michigan where the running back is way out in space. He's near him just like you would see him in the NFL Combine drill, and then goes out there and makes a tackle. When he's setting the edge as well, they'll walk him up to the line of scrimmage. When he's setting the edge, he is giving these tight ends and sometimes even offensive tackles absolute hell. He is so heavy-handed that he is just of complete force against the run. He is plenty fast enough out in space. You're not going to see like the crazy coverage clips that you might see from everybody else, but this is a pro style defense. He runs all around the field. I just think that he could see things very clearly, and he is extremely physically imposing. And then on top of that, you're going to be able to bring him as a blitzer. On occasion, he's going to be just a straight up edge rusher. You can develop his pass rush game plan a little bit more, but even without it, just his power, his speed, and his coverage ability, I think we're already looking at one of the best linebacker prospects in a very long time. It's not necessarily a premium position, but if you're talking about somebody that can truly do it all and bring you that pass rush edge, I do think eventually in the NFL, he'll be viewed as an off ball linebacker that does more than that, as one of the more unique players in the NFL. So I think as an edge rusher, you can draft him second overall if you wanted to put him there. I'm going to take the counter of this. I would just take him as an off ball linebacker and occasionally move him as an edge rusher. And I still think with that, he's worth the second overall pick. I think just how I viewed him after watching him purely as an off ball linebacker, I'm pretty convinced he will be the second overall pick in this draft. And I do think the Jets will eventually announce him as a linebacker, not an edge rusher. Number 3, Spencer Fano from Utah, offensive tackle, right tackle here. And I'm a little bit ahead on Fano than most of the other analysts ranking these guys. I just see somebody that's super light on his feet. He fires out of his stance. He's got great recovery quickness, but for the most part, he doesn't have to recover because he's super balanced. I watched all of his pass pro snaps. Maybe there's like 1 or 2 times where he was beat around the edge. I mean, you basically can't do it because he's way too fast. He's got like enough length, in my opinion, as well. PFF had him at 0% pressure rate on these outside moves. I think his hands were usually good. He overextended a couple times against David Bailey, who we'll get to on a second, who beat him on spin moves. But for the most part, on inside moves as well, he can slide his feet back inside and handle those pretty well. His issue right now is he has bottom 5th percentile weight. We'll see what he shows up at the NFL Combine, but that is something where just kind of power-wise, he's not as freaky as some of the other linemen like Armand Membu, I thought, also a right tackle prospect who can move his feet. I thought Membu was a lot stronger than Fano is, but at the same time, Fano's an exceptional athlete. I think his frame could add some weight as well. So that's part of my projection here is in a couple years, if he does add a little bit of weight, he doesn't have a big gut or anything like that, you can put on some pounds for him. I think he can get a little bit stronger. And when I watch him in the run game, of course, because he's such a good athlete, outside zone, he's going to be able to handle all that stuff. Pulling, you can handle it as well. But I do think there was a lot of one-on-one reps where there was a lot of pound for pound strength and where he could actually drive guys back. So I think he's an asset in how you can use him. He's not Penny Sewell. He's nothing like that. But I do think there is a ceiling to chase because he's such a gifted athlete. And I do think that some of the power concerns are going to be fixed long-term because he can add a little bit of weight. So I like him less than Membu, more than Will Campbell, that kind of tier of tackle prospect for me. Number 4, Rueben Bain from Miami, my edge number 2. I'm also ahead on Bain versus the consensus rankings. To me, this just comes down to he's going to be able to play all the snaps, and the trenches matter more than anything. Like the trenches start, and then wide receivers can get the ball. Then your corners can start making plays. Then your safeties can start making plays. But the guys that never come off the field at tackle, at edge rusher like Rueben Bain, I think those guys get a big boost. They're affecting literally every single play. So with him, the production is off the charts. He led all power forward edges with 75 quarterback hurries. For context, next closest in that stat was at 51, 75 to 51. That is outrageous. He also had a 25% win rate when playing in like largely a 3-4 defense. He's not like a wide 9 player who's just getting like one-on-one opportunities. He has to kind of navigate a lot of things just the way that he was playing. Now, there were plenty of outside reps where he was just winning on the perimeter. I think that's actually where his like freaky trait is. Because he's so strong, these offensive tackles, when he's kind of turning the corner, they think they can just like push him outside the pocket. He can stay on balance on one leg and turn the corner without getting pushed off his stride. And he had a lot of sacks actually working around the edge, which you would not expect for somebody that quote unquote doesn't have elite get off. He definitely has really tiny arms. That does matter, but he's just so strong that even on the perimeter, he can kind of hold the integrity of his pass rush lane. And that's a really valuable skill set for him. I thought his hand usage was really good. He's definitely not just a bull rusher. He can do that because he is so strong, but only 6% of his rushes were actually bull rushes. He can kind of like fight in that B gap as well. He made a ton of tackles against the run. He's going to be able to stay on the field. Is he a 4-3 outside guy? Is he a 3-4 defensive end? It's going to depend on the scheme that he goes to, but I do think there's a lot to like from Rueben Bain. I do like him as a top 5 prospect in this draft class. Number 5, Francis Mauigoa from Miami, an offensive tackle, another right tackle here. A lot different style than Spencer Fano from just above. He's a 5-star out of the IMG Academy. He was a 6 overall prospect in his recruiting class. This last year at Miami did not allow a single sack, 1.6% pressure rate, all the stuff that you're looking for a top 10 overall prospect. Really firm base, like pretty much a square. His anchor is fantastic. Good luck trying to bull rush on him. Most of the pass rushers wouldn't even try that against him. I think the hard part with him is his recovery quickness and just like his range overall and his pass sets is a little bit narrower than a lot of the other guys out there. So I think he's like a decent enough athlete, but I do think that he's just not going to be able to cover as much ground in pass protection as some of the other guys that get drafted this high. I think I would label him as a fail to guard prospect. I want to start him at right tackle because if I am wrong, then awesome. You have some like absolute freakazoid in terms of power and length out there. But if he can't hang out there and he has to go into guard, he's going to be a total ass kicker in there, one-on-one, powerful. I think he's going to be an awesome player, whether that's at guard or at tackle. I think his floor is extremely high here. We'll just see if he has enough recovery quickness in general to like maintain that huge all-pro caliber ceiling at right tackle. I'm not sure if I see that, but in this draft class, you got to take what you can get. Number 6, David Bailey from Texas Tech, another edge rusher here. Way different than the Rueben Bain type out there. And let's just start this at the very top. He's messing with my brain because usually these edge rushers, super flashy, like they got the tape, the gloves, they got pads, they got crazy socks. He looks like there was a glitch in Madden where the creative player didn't have anything, like just like ran out there, like was late to the game. No gloves, no nothing, no swag. It's really messing with me. But the one thing that is very clear about his game is just extremely explosive right out of the gate, super fast first step. I think he's probably going to jump out of the gym in Indy. I can see like a 40-inch vertical with him. He's got a fantastic spin move as well, and it's very easy. It's a great 1-2 punch where you can obviously beat players off the edge because you're so damn fast. And then when they set out there, you can spin inside, and then you can see if they have the recovery quickness to deal with it. He was fantastic. He led all 4 edge rushers with a 24% pressure rate. He had 25 quarterback hits. That also was the leader in this class. 19.5 tackles for loss, 14.5 sacks. He also beat my guy Spencer Fano a couple times in his biggest matchup of the year. A couple of those were spin moves as well. Did want to note that his schedule was pretty weak in his games against Utah, Oregon, and Arizona State. Only a 14% pressure rate. So that's like pretty much cut in half in his biggest matchups of the year. And then the other big thing with David Bailey is he going to be big enough to handle a lot of the run game assignments? So I looked at all the round 1 prospects at edge rusher. He only had 24 tackles on run plays over the last 2 years. That was the worst among like the top 6 edge rushers in the class. So that's going to be the thing where Rueben Bain, I know he's not coming off the field. David Bailey, we'll see. And obviously he has a much higher ceiling as a pass rusher because if he turns into Nick Bonito, super hard to find. But this is kind of a boom bust player just based off of he has to win in the wide 9, 4-3 outside speed rusher. I think he will be able to do that, but there's at least a couple warts in this profile, especially being a senior on top of it.
All right, people, my wife and I just moved into a new home. You know the drill. You get inspections, you get estimates, things to fix, the plumbing, the HVAC, the electrical, the roof, all that type of stuff. If you are going through a similar thing right now, I implore you to add life insurance onto that list. First of all, it's a lot easier to obtain and it's far, far less expensive. And I'll point you in the direction of Ethos, where you can get up to $3 million in coverage, and some policies are as low as $2 a day that are billed monthly. The reason why it's easy is that it is not complicated and it is 100% online. There is no medical exam required, and you can only answer a few questions, and that's all that you need. You get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. When I signed up for life insurance, someone came to my door at 7:30 in the morning, sat in the kitchen around the dining table with them for an hour and a half. That was not with Ethos. So again, protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. It is much, much simpler. Get your free quote at ethos.com/the show. That is ethos.com/the show. You never think about life insurance. Hopefully this forces you to do that now.
Number 7, Carnell Tate out of Ohio State, a wide receiver. And this guy is just so much fun to watch. He reminds me of a polished version of George Pickens. Remember, George Pickens was exceptional prospect as well, but there was a lot of volatility to his game. I don't see that same level of Carnell Tate volatility here at all. I think that he can dunk on guys at the catch point, which obviously that's what George Pickens does, but he can also win down the field. And I think that's what George Pickens does as well. I think that the difference is here against zone coverage. He was already really good. Carnell Tate, 3.2 yards per zone route. Once you remove his screens, that was just as good as it was in man coverage when that was at 3.1 yards per man route. I think that he could sink his hips enough, but he's really good in scramble drills, which I think just takes like a lot of just kind of like mental awareness. He can toe tap on the sideline. He has a lot of fight as a run blocker, which we've seen come and go for George Pickens. In fact, I think that they would like choose to put Tate a little bit closer to the tackles and the tight ends, so he can go actually like down block linebackers and on these kind of edge runs. So I think he has a lot of dog in him. He's not as heavy as like the T Higgins tier of like X receivers. I think he could play X. He could play Z. I really like the George Pickens comp here. And if we can get that like early in his career rather than like George Pickens in year 3, 4, 5, that's the difference of, sliding a little bit versus going as a top 10 prospect. Number 8, Caleb Downs from Ohio State, the safety, number 1 in this class. And this is me adjusting for positional value. I think that's one thing that I always do on this channel is like everything out of my mouth is adjusting for positional value. Like I really do not like how these big boards do not adjust for positional value, because you'll rank these players and then you'll tell me, oh, if I was actually on the clock, I wouldn't have taken this player, and just really confusing. Like to me, this is like how, if I was a team, this is how I'm going to rank these guys and draft them, adjusting for everything. So Caleb Downs, even though he's a safety, even though he's furthest away from the ball in a lot of these plays, he is so damn impressive that I still want him inside the top 10. Here's just Fernando Mendoza on Caleb Downs before they played each other.
The way that he's able to rotate down, affect the run game, the way that he's able to match, whether it's zone or man, and lock down that receiver, or the way that he's able to flip his hips and drive on a seam ball, or just any ball in general, is truly special. A player that is able to play effectively at all 3 levels is always something that you got to consider.
I've got nothing more to say than that. He kind of handled everything there. I just wanted to mention he was a 5-star recruit, 8th overall in his class. As a freshman at Alabama, he had 107 tackles. Then these last 2 seasons at Ohio State, just an elite open field tackler. He fights through blocks on screen, super aggressive. He's just going to be a like tight end eraser in coverage. He can flip his hips. He can run the seam. He's just fantastic in every single way. So he's not quite as physically imposing as like the Derwin James and like the crazy prospects that we've seen at safety over the years. He's one tiny step down from that, but he's going to be awesome in the modern NFL. You've obviously heard a lot about Nicky Manwari, these kind of nickel linebacker types that can make all the tackles. That is Caleb Downs in this draft class. Number 9, Mansoor Delane from LSU, the top corner in the class. He's got solid size, 6 foot, 190. This is not Patrick Surtain. This is not Jalen Ramsey, like so physically imposing. This is just somebody that's always in phase, very smooth, could be aggressive, 11 pass deflections, is always by the ball when he's actually targeted. But for the most part, he's not even targeted because he's such a good man corner, got a lot of tough assignments in this defense, handled them beautifully. He did something that I pretty much have never seen before. Last year, he gave up 0 touchdowns and 0 penalties. That is absurd to do in the SEC. I think his eyes and zone coverage are solid, but really like you're drafting him because I do think he has a chance to be one of these just like man coverage, lock him up against number ones and live with the results. I think he's a pretty good athlete. He's not the craziest explosive athlete flying downhill. He's okay against the run, but really here, it's hard to find guys that can be this sticky in man coverage. I do think Delane is just that. Number 10, Makai Lemon from my USC, the number 2 wide receiver in the class. A lot different than Carnell Tate, who's going to win down the field. Makai Lemon is the most efficient wide receiver in the draft class, 3.5 yards against zone coverage per route. That's removing screens. He's just got elite feel for space. It's kind of an air raid skill set, just something that they have to teach in that scheme. I think he also does a fantastic job against like off coverage safeties when he gets those looks downfield. He kind of really can tempo his routes. He's also fantastic at the catch point. So you'll see him as like a slot wide receiver. I think he's more than that because what he can do at the catch point probably makes him a little bit closer to JSN if you really want to dream here. But he's got like a little push off on these back shoulder kind of jump balls. He can take like huge hits over the middle, holds the ball onto tightly, can obviously navigate the middle of the field where the most efficient passes are in the NFL. Yards after catch wise, can fight through a lot of contact, make some kind of underneath catches, go for first downs because he's got just good feel. He's not crazy fast, and that's where like you get the Amon-Ra St. Brown comps there, which I also think it's a very good stylistic comp for him. But I think the big thing is just the ball tracking and the catch point stuff is really fantastic. There's a couple times where I would see him create enough space down the field and then really like change his route path to come back to the ball or to go up the field a little bit more. And then it would make some exceptional catch on top of that. He's just a total football player. I think he can survive in 2 wide receiver sets. You saw him score a downfield touchdown on the perimeter against UCLA. Go watch that game against Iowa where he was one of the best players in the entire draft for that game. He's going to be an exceptional football player. He looks like a lot of the best football players in the NFL. So hopefully he's fast enough at the combine. But as we saw with Amon-Ra St. Brown, even if he's not completely going crazy in the drills, he's just an exceptional football player worthy of a top 10 selection. Number 11, Sonny Styles from Ohio State. This is a lot of Ohio State players. That's the 3rd guy in my top 11. A linebacker here, a 5-star recruit. What makes him interesting, he actually played safety early on. He's only 21 years old, and now he's playing off-ball linebacker. He just looks the part. Like you could just like draft him just based the way he freaking looks out there. Ideal frame, super lengthy. He's got great athleticism. We kind of use like the sideline to sideline skill set maybe a little bit too liberally. He actually has that. He can go all the way across the field. There was a couple awesome highlight plays from him where he's a spy looking at the quarterback and absolutely catching up to these guys. Huge deflections, diving in zone coverage as well. So he can really scan the field side to side there. My favorite part about him is he would absolutely murder these poor running backs as a blitzer. He comes in so freaking hot. He can shed blocks as well. So there's a little bit of a pass rush juice to him as well, which obviously we saw the Super Bowl, how important some of these kind of pressures are. But man, he is just like, looks the part. I think he can get a little bit lost in zone coverage right now. There's a couple reps where just people would kind of leak right by him. There's only a couple like legit man coverage reps out there. His overall production is only in the 24th percentile amongst drafted linebackers in terms of tackles per game at 5.9. So I don't think he's just like some layup line top 10 overall prospect, but the way he moves and with a little bit of development here, I do think he has all the physical traits to really take off and be a high level linebacker in the NFL. So I do think like the Nick Man War factor here does kind of play into his strengths as well, just because he is a freak of nature, kind of versatility up for grabs here as well. So I think he's going to go very high in the draft. Number 12, Vega Ioane from Penn State, a left guard, 3-year starter out there, just like looks the part. When you think left guard, boom, this is exactly what he looks like. Very sturdy base, very physical, doesn't get beat with power pretty much ever. PFF had him at a 0.7% pressure rate allowed. If you actually look at those pressures, most of them are like on stunts where it's like a communication error between either him or the center, or just like they'll pull him out in space and then he's like has like these really weird, crazy blocks, and maybe he can't survive doing that. But what's so insane is just you can watch him for the entire year and he's just not losing his one-on-one reps against pass rushers on the inside. That's obviously super valuable. Some of the defensive tackles in the NFL right now are complete freaks of nature. I think that he can handle those guys one-on-one. He's a functional athlete. I think his recovery ability is like probably a little closer to average, but he's so dense and balanced and stuff. He doesn't really have to recover very often. My favorite part about his tape were kind of these wrinkles that they would do where he would line up as the fullback or as a tight end at the snap. They would get him in motion, make him like the very clear, like lead blocker, and he would just annihilate guys. I don't know where he is at any moment. He can be coming down my hallway in motion and absolutely light me up. It was just weird from play to play. You wouldn't even know where he's going to line up because all of a sudden he would be a tight end coming downhill, and that's really fun to do. Obviously, you'd only do that if you believe this guy is an exceptional athlete. So lots of good from him, and just one of these prospects. Every single play, his blocking ability matters. Passing the ball, running the ball, every single play, he's going to be on the football field. That does matter a lot to me. Number 13, Jeremiyah Love from Notre Dame, the top running back in the class. Not even close, really. And I'll say this, I like him this much more than Ashton Jeanty from last year. They're totally different. Jeanty, obviously, contact balance off the charts, so much power, can't miss prospect. I think Jeremiyah Love is just that, just on the other side. Incredible speed on every wave. So we have like zone cutbacks. We have splitting safeties right up the middle. Out in space, he has got like the nastiest spin move you'll see. I think that he also like presses things very well to like get these linebackers to collapse and then boom, right back over the other side of them. Just exceptionally fast. I think there's a little bit of Kenneth Walker to his game, and in that like he wants to like sometimes bounce things, but because he's so gifted, he can actually get away with it and create explosives doing that. Compared to Kenneth Walker, he's just a way better all around back. In pass protection, I think that he can scan for blitzers really well. He's got enough size, like 6 foot 215, so looks good there. But on top of just like scanning for blitzers, he also has like great awareness for, does his tackle need some help on top of that? So I think he understands the game really well. As a pure receiver, one-handed grab on a wheel route for a touchdown. They'll motion him around to find the actual mismatches as a receiver. There was a huge slot corner route versus Arkansas, lots of angle routes against linebackers. And then on a lot of his swing passes out to the flats, he would make the first guy miss. So, I mean, what's not to like? He's going to be 20 years old on draft night, 6.7 yards per carry over his career. My model has him at 97th percentile in terms of adjusted production. So like him versus like Jahmyr Gibbs, Dalvin Cook, it's like not a perfect comp between those guys, but I do think like the ultimate production out of Jeremiyah Love is going to match that. I think he's like a legit bell cow for the modern era. And I think that his pass protection is actually something that I would even label as a strength. The number 14 prospect is Keldric Faulk from Auburn, an edge rusher. And I'll say that the top 13, I think all those guys very, very much in play to go top 10. I think these next three names that we're going to get to, things have to break their way. But if they kind of check some boxes at the combine, they have a path to be like the 10th overall pick here. So these are kind of more long shot guys, but wanted to give these three guys a little bit of a call out. So with Keldric Faulk, he's only 20 years old. He is a project, like no doubt about it. It's going to take a little bit of time. He reminds me of Michael Williams for the last draft. And I think he went like 11th overall. He just does not have the production that these other guys have. 11% win rate on his pass rushes is like straight up pretty bad. But if you go back and watch them, he's not getting these outside pass rushes. He's like doing a lot of the dirty work on the inside. That's exactly what we were saying about Michael Williams last year as well. He's 6'6". He's 280 plus pounds here. He's going to be one of the better run defenders in the draft class. I just looked at tackles on run plays over the last 2 years, and he was number one among the top 6 edge rushers in the class. I think he was pretty much late off the ball on a lot of his snaps. Doesn't really have counter moves as a pass rusher right now, so he needs a lot of work in terms of the just the pass rush plan. But I do think that he has, the run defense, the size, being an early declared 20-year-old. Those are the type of things where you can dream about a ceiling. He has to ace the NFL combine to have a chance to go this high because the pass production is that weak. But we'll see if he can do that. He's got a huge like lean forward kind of thing going on on his tape. I can't tell how good of an athlete he is. I think there's some moments where I think he's a really good one, some other moments where he's not. So we'll let the combine speak for himself over there. Number 15, Akheem Mesidor from Miami, the third Miami Hurricane that we have on this list. Also an edge rusher. He is massive. He's not quite as big as Rueben Bain, but he's going to be a big boy. What's so interesting about him, he's going to be a 25-year-old rookie. He played 6 collegiate seasons. What is going on with the freaking NCAA right now? What's so crazy, he started as a 3-star recruit. He was a 195-pound outside linebacker from our friends up north in Canada. Now he's massive, huge legs, and he was super productive. 21% win rate on his pass rushes is fantastic. If you only look at those like 3-4 pass rushers, his win rate like really stands out. On top of that, he can win from the B gap. He's not just some pure outside pass rusher as well. 12.5 sacks, 17.5 TFLs. He's got great inside counter moves, got really violent hands. And I thought he was able to actually turn the corner. Like there were some like really wow plays from him. So how do you navigate like awesome wow moments, in terms of the production, but also he's beating up on minors as a 25-year-old. Like this is going to be the debate here. In this draft class, if you just want a high floor prospect and that he's definitely going to be able to handle a lot of snaps and you just want to go to town on that, that's cool with me. I'm very curious what his testing is going to be, but I do think he checks enough boxes aside from the age part where I do think that he could be one of these like sneaky guys to end up going inside the top 12 or so picks. Number 16, Denzel Boston from Washington. This is my wide receiver 3. And I'm guessing a lot of you guys are probably expecting me to say Jordan Tyson. He's kind of the guy that gets the most buzz after the top 2 wide receivers. I like Boston more on the first watch. 6'4", 210-ish pounds. He's pretty much going to be an X receiver, and just hard to find guys like that. He has plenty of just like high point dunks. You saw a couple of those against Washington State. I think his build-up speed is rock solid. He's not like going to run a 4.3 or anything crazy like that. I think he can sink his hips fairly well. He made a couple of nice, really sliding grabs, a couple plays by the sideline as well. So I just think he's a very functional wide receiver. He's going to be able to block for you. His zone feel is good. His ability to beat man coverage is good. None of this is crazy. We're not talking about like one of the best wide receivers in the game, but a very functional player. And I'm going to steal one from Matt Harmon, who called Denzel Boston like the Diet Coke version of Mike Evans. I think there's a lot of similarity in those two. Mike Evans added about like 10, 15, 20 pounds from Denzel Boston. I think Mike Evans had a little bit more burst down the field, but I think you can use these guys fairly similarly. And if you get 75% of the production from Mike Evans, I think you're in good shape. So very curious to see what his testing numbers are going to be, but they're a little bit faster than we're expecting. I do think there's going to be a lot more buzz for Denzel Boston. Kind of just does a lot of the dirty work that someone like Jordan Tyson, I'm just not sold, will be doing the same. Yeah, so those are like the 16 guys I think have a chance to go inside the top 10. So with that out of the way, we've laid the groundwork. Let's quickly go through like a little bit of a mock draft here. We'll do the top 12 picks. Want to include the Dallas Cowboys in there. And then I'll get to the rest of these prospects after the combine and upcoming videos. But these are the guys I've like firmly watched and have done a lot of research on. So let's do a mock draft here. Number 1, Raiders, Fernando Mendoza. Let's just not even waste each other's time. It's just going to happen here. Number 2, the Jets. And I'm going to give them Arvell Reese, and I'm going to call him a linebacker, even though he can play the edge. There was big news. The Jets fired a bunch of their defensive staff, not Aaron Glenn, but everybody else associated. They brought in a 3-4 defensive line coach, Carl Dunbar. They already have 2 speed rushers out there already. I think they just need help at off-ball linebacker and then more of like the interior of the defense, obviously, when you lose Quinnen Williams. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to keep the same outside speed rushes that they have, and they'll have Arvell Reese play off-ball linebacker and then bring him in blitzes, and then on occasion go put him at outside linebacker and use him off the edge. And I think he'd be a fantastic scheme fit there as well. I think that he's fantastic, and I would not be surprised, even though we've seen him listed as an edge rusher, that eventually we'll come back to where it started. He's an off-ball linebacker, a special one, a heavy-handed one that as a side hustle could be a very, very explosive edge rusher. I think this entire thing comes back to he will be an off-ball linebacker for the New York Jets at number 2 overall. Arizona Cardinals, I'm giving them Spencer Fano, the right tackle. Right now, Jonah Williams and Kelvin Beachum are free agents. Looking at just the coach that they hired, LaFleur, historically, that entire scheme is more outside zone. I like his ability to run that a little bit better because he's a little bit better of an athlete. I know he's going to play right tackle in the NFL. The Cardinals need a tackle here, and I think that Francis Mauigoa, or however you pronounce his name, I think there's some conversation where he actually might be a guard here. I think you want a freaking right tackle with a 3rd overall pick, and that's why I'm giving them Spencer Fano. Tennessee Titans, I'm giving them David Bailey, the 2nd edge rusher, off the board. Robert Saleh keeps our jobs really easy here. Just 4-man front, wide 9. Think Nick Bosa off the edge. And that's what David Bailey is going to try to be. He's not nearly as physical as Nick Bosa is, but you just need somebody on the perimeter. You got Jeffrey Simmons up the middle. You need some freaking edge rushers to kind of go to war with. David Bailey just comes down to his burst is just going to fit better in the Robert Saleh scheme than some of these other guys. So even though I like Rueben Bain more, that's more of a 3-4 kind of physical end, where David Bailey more of the get off the field pass rusher type that Robert Saleh typically likes in the draft. Number 5, the Giants. Man, they got 2 free agents at right guard and at right tackle. But if I was running that team, like I just like re-signed both of those guys. The offensive line was already pretty functional last year, and Jackson Dart seemed to like all of them. I would keep those guys, just keep the same offensive line, and I would draft Carnell Tate because they don't have somebody like that on the roster. You would perhaps let Wan'Dale Robinson test free agency. You can move Malik Neighbors into the slot, and then all of a sudden you have Malik Neighbors yards after the catch over the middle, and then Carnell Tate as the downfield field stretcher. We don't have to deal with the Darius Slayton drops anymore. Jackson Dart, just the way he wants to play, he wants to push the ball down the field. He's got plenty enough arm there. He buys time and then rifles the ball down the field. I talked about Carnell Tate's ability in the scramble drill. I think Tate plus Malik Neighbors and just have this like veteran offensive line. I think that's a pretty functional path here for the Giants to go for. So they have lots of issues in the secondary and at linebacker and safety and corner, you name it. There's some guys that fit the mold there, but Tate plus Neighbors would be a lot of fun. And I would just keep Jackson Dart happy if I were the Giants. Number 6, the Browns. I got them taking Francis Mauigoa here. Man, I think I pronounced his name like 4 different times on the podcast. I'm going to have to get this down right by the NFL draft. But I think the Browns could play that game, fail to guard. I think they'll give him a chance at right tackle. They don't have like any offensive linemen under contract right now. And like the ones that they do are coming off very serious injuries. Todd Monken, you got another offensive-minded head coach in there. You got to draft some offensive linemen. This team's like what, 5-10 years ago, they built their team, their core from the offensive line up. And I think they should absolutely do that here. So start him at right tackle, move him to right guard or left guard if it doesn't work out there. But you have to find some offensive linemen. You cannot find tackles in free agency. You have to draft him. And I think that he would be maybe not as far as there's a chance he can fall further than this, but he's just such a layup pick for the Cleveland Browns that I will mock him here for now. Number 7, the Commanders. I got them taking Caleb Downs. This is kind of just like a little hat tip to Dan Quinn right here. More of a Legion of Boom. Like, let's try to recreate this. Obviously, there are many pieces away in the secondary. They got absolutely cooked throughout the entire season. I mean, just like the tight end numbers that would go crazy against Commanders. They need linebackers. They kind of need an answer over the middle, and that's just what Caleb Downs provides there. So great tackler, great tight end eraser. They got like some corner play. We'll see what they're going to do with their big contract, but I think that Trey Amos does enough. Mike Sanders still does enough for the corners to be okay. They need linebackers and safeties and edge rushers, but right now I think that Caleb Downs is not going to fall far in the draft. His tape is just too damn good. Number 8, the Saints. I got them taking Makai Lemon. We've seen the history with Kellen Moore here, just CeeDee Lamb, Keenan Allen, Devonta Smith, and then they even moved Chris Olave into the slot. He's had just like a history with slot wide receivers. And when you get rid of Rashid Shaheed, who's a little bit of the same skill set as Chris Olave, downfield slender players, where now you would build the offense, Makai Lemon underneath, more physical yak player, Chris Olave winning down the field. It's a fantastic 1-2 punch, totally different skill sets there. I thought Tyler Shuck showed a lot as a second round pick last year, build up everything around him. You took a left tackle in this range last year. Now you draft a wide receiver here. They just have to get younger in the skill group. Kamara, the old tight ends like Devon Vele, nobody older than him. Get younger at the skill group. Help Tyler Shuck here. And Lemon and Olave, just total 1-2 punch. Really love this fit here. Number 9, the Chiefs. They can use a couple different positions. I still think the defensive line is like missing one guy. They've got some safety concerns. They've got corner concerns because of free agency. They can go with a right tackle as well. They can definitely go with like an X wide receiver. All those kind of bodies just got drafted ahead of them. So this is where I have the Chiefs taking Jeremiyah Love. And this one, it's a layup line, really. The Chiefs last year, dead last in explosive runs. Like, it's been like that for 3-4 years. I'm pretty sure they don't have a running back under contract. At least Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco are free agents. This would also give Mahomes like a little bit more time to like rebound from that torn ACL. And I also think that their interior offensive linemen could show off a whole lot more in the ground game if they had an explosive rusher like Jeremiyah Love. So I'm usually pretty critical of teams taking a running back this high in the draft. I think the Raiders were a perfect example of why like you can't do that if you're not a competing team. But could this be a little bit of a cherry on top piece, kind of settle down the offense, put a little bit less pressure on Mahomes? I would understand it for the Chiefs a whole lot more than Genty with the Raiders. So I guess we'll kind of just take a little luxury pick in the top 10 because we won't see the Chiefs up here very often. Number 10, the Bengals. They just need edge help. I'm giving Rueben Bain to them. I think there's a chance Rueben Bain falls in the draft, even though I like him a lot. If his arms do come in at 31 inches, that just kind of like makes him an outlier. We see outliers fall in the draft a little bit. The Bengals, they just need somebody serious, though, up front. Trey Hendrickson, Joseph Asai, both of them are free agents. Shamar Stewart, we'll see with him kind of an up and down rookie season, more downs than up. Rueben Bain, you're going to get immediate impact, like high floor, pocket collapser at the very least. He's going to be very sturdy against the run. Rueben Bain is going to like allow them to at least stop the run and be a little bit more serious in general. So I really like Rueben Bain to the Bengals if he does have to slide to the bottom of the top 10. Number 11, we'll go the corner. Mansoor Delane, just talked about him. They need a top corner out there. They got a couple free agents. They got a slot corner going to free agency. Rasul Douglas is a free agent here. They've made a lot of big defensive line investments over the years. We need to start paying attention to the secondary again. Delane, I think, is a great man coverage corner out there, kind of live in an island. And I think there's a chance he goes in the top 10. So if he slides a little bit, he's not going to go much further because the next team, the Cowboys, could also use a corner. With Delane off the board, I'm giving them Sonny Styles, the off-ball linebacker. They got multiple free agents at linebacker on top of that. Logan Wilson, who they traded for, he's going to be a cut candidate. They were just not good enough on defense. I think partially because their linebackers were so damn slow. Sonny Styles fixes that. Sideline to sideline, could go chase tight ends around, but really just going to be a better presence against the run. The Cowboys were 30th in rushing EPA allowed. So I think these are like comfortably like the top 12 prospects to me in the draft. I think one of those guys at the very end of my video kind of sneak in here. Maybe it's the guard, maybe it's Keldric Faulk, Akheem Mesidor, Denzel Boston, one of those guys. But these are like the top 12 guys that we're gonna have to get used to. And these guys probably aren't going to move around my rankings too much by the time we get to the end of the draft. So a lot more draft content coming here. Obviously, Underdog supports us for getting this thing up and going. We will get Josh Norris back here on the channel right for the NFL Combine. We're going to have a lot of coverage with that. We'll do a complete mock draft eventually as well. I just got to get back and watch more of these prospects. So stay tuned. NFL Draft, this is the account for us. As a reminder, we are competing. Mock drafts, top 10 or top 100 big boards. We want all the crowns. Hang the damn banner, Weaves. We'll see you guys later.